Thank you for watching. Hi, everybody. Thank you for watching this video. Patrick and I are here to talk to you about a little challenge that we took on in September, and I'll get Patrick to describe what it was about.
Well, I interpret it as a challenge for me to react to a bunch of random titles and write a poem for what was coming up for me from that day and apply it to that title. And some days my day had nothing to do with the title, but somehow it all came out. Like whatever my emotions were, they somehow all crystallized in relation to what the title suggested. So I attempted to do it every day, like day 1, poem 1, day 2, poem 2. There were a couple days that I forgot, or I was like, I'm too tired, or I did it at the end of the day at my little writing desk, and I just said, no, can't do it tonight. So I did it the next morning. But that's how I approached it.
Yeah, I think the thing to say about this was we did it on the back of the previous video that you and I put together. That we put together Patrick and I put together a video, really based on some visuals that I made, and I made some visuals. Patrick made some music, and then, but I kind of said to Patrick, I think this could do with a poem. This needs some words to turn it into something useful. And Patrick came up with a poem to last for 10 minutes. And you can watch that video below. I guess we can put a link. Maybe be a good idea, wouldn't it? Below, up there, down there, whatever. And then once we finished it, I think both of us felt that we needed to do something else, isn't it? I think we've both felt, let's do something else. And I just kind of casually said, let's write a poem a day for September. And then between us, I think we both really negotiated we negotiated by email, which isn't actually the best way of communicating, is it? It's a very kind of low bandwidth medium to communicate, isn't it? So we kind of sent a few emails back and forwards saying, well, how about we come up with some words, or how about we choose, some book titles? I know you suggested some book titles, or maybe movie titles or something. But I just felt that any of those things would kind of they might kind of pre-color what is, if you choose a film, it's going to pre-color your thinking in terms of what kind of poem you're going to write. So I just said, well, let's come up with 15 words each, or 15, not titles, but bunches of words.
Yes.
Just to kind of get the juices going. And it doesn't have to be the title. But for me, those words kind of are the title for each of the poems. So
yeah,
between us, we've created, 60 poems, 30 each. And very much as you said, Patrick, I approached this not quite in the same structured way. I know you kind of took your time to sit down every day and do it. I kind of think that most of the inspirations for the ones I wrote came on the day, but then sometimes maybe 2 days later, I'd already had the idea, and then just kind of get the words down. So I didn't find from this process that I actually gained a structured 45 minutes of my day when I could write. But I've just managed to find time when I'd get a muse, and then I'd get a time where I could just kind of get the words out. And I think there was a lot of digestion for me, kind of getting an idea and then digesting the words, and then it was easy to write them.
Yeah.
And in some of them, I actually ended up just drawing a picture. I just literally would just get a pen out and draw something, because that was my only way. It was my only way in, was to I'll draw a picture and then I'll have a go at that.
I did something similar where I didn't really know what I was going to do, and I just wrote a bunch of nonsense words for a couple lines.
Okay.
And then suddenly, like, oh, that sounds interesting. And so I didn't include those first few lines in the poem, because it seemed like it was just sort of like a warm-up exercise or something.
Yeah.
Are you going to
So
show some of the pictures?
I'm just trying to find one picture. Sorry, I'm scruffling here.
Yeah.
You can tell how prepared I am as ever for things like this.
Well,
Here
while
it
you're
is.
scuffling, oh, okay.
Yeah, here it is. So I think the one picture that really worked for me was this one. I don't know if you recognize the poem, Patrick.
Oh, I don't.
It's the one about, I'll put you out of your misery. It's the one about truth. There's a poem about, being in the art gallery and kind of
Yeah.
looking at there's one about looking at art and just
Yes.
trying to be truthful to yourself and finding that actually, I looked at this picture and I thought, actually, do you know what? It's the kids who actually write truth. It's the kids that actually
Yeah.
create truth in our world. So that was that one. Uh,
That's
so for,
right. You're looking at all the different displays and you're puzzling over how you're supposed to react to it. And then you saw this and you thought, yeah, that's it.
there's some honesty there. That for me, I was just talking about the process. How are
Yeah.
people going to read our poetry? What's the
Oh, that's one of the things that I remembered in the very beginning of this, sort of the inspiration that I felt was the image that you chose for that other video, uh, written or drawn by who was
by
the person?
Sally, Painter
By
Sally?
Sally. And I
Yeah,
said, I keep thinking of this as the book cover for this
yes,
poem,
yes.
and I kept, and I think that maybe was the sort of the impetus of saying maybe we should write a book of poetry, or
Yeah, oh really? Okay. Yes.
and so I mean I think some of these poems are best read and
Hmm.
not heard.
Absolutely.
Especially some of yours that were very visual, like the numbers. What was that poem? The one with all of the permutations of. Um, oh yeah, this.
Yes, yes.
What is that called? Octoroon.
Octoroon, yeah.
1,680 ways, perhaps it's a genetic code. That would be. I mean, this would be a beautiful page in a book, I feel.
Mm.
Yeah, and there's a couple others where it's obvious the poem is in the visual wordplay, and I loved let me see if I could find the other one that I'm thinking of. Oh, the musical number.
Fail, fail, joy. You made a great. This one's funny. Fail, fail, joy. You made great fun out of that on YouTube. I'd never in a
Yeah.
million years thought that fail, fail, joy would turn into that. It was just like, oh, of course, because these were disposable words. They didn't rhyme. They didn't have any poetry. They were part of trying to solve a literary problem. They weren't,
Okay.
they were like, there's 5 vowels. You've got to make 5 words by only changing the vowel. That was the algorithm.
Okay. I was going to
So,
ask. And then why are some of them in red?
so the red ones are the ones that don't solve the algorithm. But the last line is the
It
ones
did.
which solve the algorithm. You see, so that's the joy,
Yes.
and that was such a joyful moment for me when
Yes.
I suddenly got
Oh,
5 words where you just change the vowel and you get 5 words that work.
that's awesome.
And that's poetry, isn't it? That was when something's
Mm-hmm.
poetic. That is poetry, isn't it? It's kind of so. And the beginning ones, oath, oat, oat. I included those because a word that begins with OA. How can you have 4 words that begin with OA? I
Yeah.
I mean, how's that possible? And that's how I ended up with Ohm, because the last one I just couldn't think of number 5,
Uh-huh.
and that's why Ohm is red again, because it just you know.
Right.
So each is a fail until the
That's
last line,
awesome.
which is the joy. So,
I'd like
do you
to
know?
talk about some of your poems if we could.
Yeah, can I talk about a couple of yours first?
Well, please do.
I
Uh,
got to. leaving you behind the head driving. This one. I even drew a teacher at the bottom here.
Oh,
I got to this one. You know, I had that sense of excitement of, I'm going to see Patrick's work, and the PDF dropped, and I was like, I don't want to eat too many sweets. I don't want to like dig into the chocolate box.
I felt the same way.
Because I must admit, Patrick, your words are very dense. They're very deep, and they require a lot of concentration.
Yeah.
I don't know how long you spent writing these, but it's not 5 minutes. And I think we both said
No.
like 20 minutes, but I think you spent a
Yeah.
lot longer. I think you spent a
No,
long time.
I
So
think, well, it was the end of the day. It might have been longer than 20 minutes, but that was my goal.
yeah, I definitely went over. But the thing about this poem, I got to this one, which is maybe three in, and I just had a file print. I just printed it out and I took it upstairs and I showed it to my son because he's at school. He's struggling with school. He hates school. And this
Oh,
just says, this says, well, what I read is that teachers may be teaching you facts, but they're not really teaching you facts. They're teaching you to learn, which is a different skill. And it doesn't
if
really
they
matter
can.
it doesn't really matter what you're learning. But you've also kind of hinted at the secret sauce, which is perhaps even teachers don't realize that they're teaching you just to learn. That every teacher's focused on their subject, but
Yeah.
but but are they? Do they really realize that if you teach maths, you might actually make somebody excel at French? It's just it's beautiful. So yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I've got a
I
couple
felt
more
like
that I
that.
want to talk about, but
Yeah.
over
Okay.
to you.
Oh,
Over
okay.
to you.
Okay. We'll trade off. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
I don't want to hog it, but yeah.
no. Okay. There were, did we agree that we would read a poem of each other's? Is
Yeah,
that
why
what I
not?
understood?
Why not?
Okay,
Yeah.
so I have some that I've marked with an R. So those are the ones that
Okay.
I'm thinking about reading. So I'll put those off to the side. But there are other ones that my notes are very sparse. I didn't draw any pictures. I just wrote explain. Because this poem about with the title Shiva
Mhm.
is pretty. It's I can't think of the word, but it's far-reaching. It's very perceptive about the state of people. Do you remember him? Sometimes I don't even remember what I wrote.
Mhm.
It's part of it. The first part is about the artists of the hour, and the second part is about the statesmen and explorers. And there's a line there: "You holy revolutionary, you martyr, you deity." And I think that's the reference to Shiva,
Exactly.
and how these two groups are just like, how do we tie them together? And it's this line, I think, that ties them together. Is that true? That's how I was reading it.
The thing about that for me was Andy Warhol, that we have 15
Oh,
minutes of fame.
yep.
So everyone can be famous, but the more famous you become, so when you become a musician, if you're just like amateur dramatics, your family love you. They know who you are, but you feel a little bit famous for a few days when you go in the local play, right? That's your 15 minutes of fame. But when you're David Bowie or Lou Reed or someone, you're starting to become famous. You're starting to enjoy fame, but you're losing your story because your story will be hijacked. And then by the
Mm,
time you become like a statesman or an explorer, your story actually belongs to the world. And if you're a deity, nobody knows who the Buddha was. Nobody knows about you at all. So
mm.
the more legendary you become, the less there is of you
Oh,
left so that was kind of, but you're right.
yeah,
It's quite, yeah, I was feeling quite deep when I was writing that one. But yeah, that's kind of what it's about. It's like
yeah.
the levels of fame versus the level of your own reality.
Wow, yeah. Yeah, I like that.
But
And I think that's especially it pertains a lot. I mean, it's applicable to what we're doing on YouTube, because we just have these small channels where we have a group of people who watch us,
mm,
and that's fine for
mm,
me. One day, maybe the algorithm's going to pluck one of us up and say, here's this person to the world. And maybe there's going to be thousands of people watching these videos. What will that do? Like sometimes I think about it, like I haven't seen it happen to anybody that I've sort of grown up with, but I'm guessing it happens. Like,
it does.
What do you lose?
Yeah.
Some people want it to happen, I think, but I don't.
I totally agree with you. I think, YouTube will pick you up, but you've got to want it, because I think with something like YouTube, you've got to be absolutely fastidious in creating a huge amount of content. So you've got to kind of attract it as well, haven't you? I mean, if you just put the odd video once a week, you're not going to get anything. And you need a good camera, and you need good sound, and you need and you need a good background, and you need all the good things,
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what Shiva. The other thing about
Shiva.
The other thing about Shiva was, I think I had to do some research. Shiva is a Hindu god, so to do Shiva justice, which is what you did, is to actually understand Shiva's story. And I was like, oh, I've got to read all this Wikipedia about Shiva. Have I let the cat out of the bag slightly?
What is this thing called Wikipedia? Is it? I'm sure. Is it like an encyclopedia?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's all there. You got to make the effort to read it. So yeah, so that was that. Yeah.
Okay.
There's one here. Where is it? I will never save time by risking the loss of power. There's one here where at the end I wrote, oh yeah, where you're talking about procrastination. I love this. You're talking about being sort of sidetracked and saying,
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Singled by crystals and strong to the end. Truthful truths, you said as well.
Yep.
Oh yeah, this one. The straight line never comes sideways. Straight line. That's Confucius, isn't it? It's just.
You know what that is? That is inspired by a tribe called Quest. Do you know that? It's a rap group from the
really
late 80s. Yeah, but their poem, their rap is competition. It never comes straight ways. Competition, it always comes sideways.
Ah, okay.
And I changed it to straight line for some reason. I don't remember why I did that.
Beautiful. I underlined it. Maybe perhaps only is where you did this. You said, don't tempt me to stray off on that tiny track.
Oh,
Don't tempt me to stray off on that tiny track. I am set upon my path. It is fertile, untrodden way you have shown me. I know it leads into a bushy tract. Wildflowers dot the meadow it crosses, and a deep green forest stretches across the horizon beyond like a brooding brow. But my path, oh yeah, my path is clear, really. It is wide and smooth, trampled by my thoughts and plans, which I have set before me, beating down the dust and weeds, slicing back the overhanging branches. This is your work as well, though, here, isn't it? The only way I would consider a sidetrack is if I was unsure of my. The only way you would consider a sidetrack, would you? The only way I would consider it is if I was unsure of my destination, and I knew I had time to double back if the way led into danger or boredom. My time is precious and my energy flagging. My solitary journey must be my own. Perhaps I could afford a few moments to investigate. Perhaps I could afford a few moments to investigate an appealing adventure. Let me just read this again. Maybe it would enlighten me or enrich my life in some small way. But how many more might there be ahead? Shall I waste my time on all of them?
Yes!
Did I get your measure? Did I get your metal?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You got it. That was good.
You see the eureka I experienced with this poem. I live a life of procrastination. I live a life of. I have a Pico drone is still here, not quite finished.
Oh no! Oh,
It's
uh,
because
it's waiting.
it's waiting because you saw
It's a
these.
patient.
I started doing these.
Yes, I did see those. In fact,
And
one of those inspired the word jeweled cave in one of my poems.
okay.
Or
Yes, you talked about these big massive jewels. Yeah.
yeah.
And then I went to Amazon. I went to Amazon last week to go
Uh-huh.
and
Yeah, to get a job.
well, no, well, to go and see them really because they invited me. I'd already interviewed with them and they'd already rejected me. But they
Okay.
invited me. I was on their mailing list. They invited me for a deep learning event. So all this AI deep learning, and
Hmm.
we rocked up and we were teaching cars to drive around a track with the neural network. And within half a day, we were all trying to get the car to drive around the track, teaching it. It was an amazing day. But
Hmm.
it occurred to me that these pictures, I can teach a neural network to draw them. Why this is drawn algorithmically. So I can maybe have a go at deep learning and teach something to draw these, and then that would be fascinating. So that's why I'm not doing the peak.
Wow.
Just to step. That's why the Pico drone is still waiting, because I've been on multiple. What did it say in your poem? I will not be taken from the path. So that's the
My
story of that.
path is fertile and
Yeah,
smooth, trampled by
yeah,
my thoughts and plans.
yeah.
But I might be convinced to go over there.
Yeah, because it looks quite nice. Yeah. So, so yeah.
Let me see if there was one other one that I wanted to bring attention to, and it was maybe perhaps only. Actually, it was this one. It was the same one.
No way. I can't remember what I
Yeah.
wrote.
Incidents reflected from the foolish plane. Stare into the angry words. Touch the frame of tears. Try to better. Try a better light to reverse the disappointments. See backwards regrets for old moments distorted.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love the way that it's paced, and and the very last phrase, polish up your metal, is, well, it's a pun, but it's also it's it's a very clear image reflecting back onto this poem, because the looking glass is reflective and the beams of light, and it's just like everything is just like, oh, that is a great way to summarize.
I, I, I- I'll tell you the background of that one. That's probably the one poem, now I think about it, that is so rooted in the feelings of the day. Many of the other ones I wrote are just kind of general. That one was rooted deeply in a really angry day, in a day where I was kind of very fed up with vanity and how vanity is kind of ruling people's lives. And it's like
Yeah.
that was what that was about. That was about, feeling really rageful, actually. And then the last line came out, and it kind of becomes much more encouraging. It kind of healed as I wrote it. It kind of another one that kind of healed my day. But yeah, yeah.
You wrote, or you shared one of the phrases of this poem with me. I think, yeah, this was the third one you'd
Mm,
written. Like it was after your third day, we were kind of checking in, saying,
mm.
how you doing?
How you doing? Are you still on this?
Yeah. And you shared unbending beams of stubbornness with me, and I'm
Yeah.
like, wow, that is going to be a good poem. And maybe that's why I liked it so much, but also I love the way it just fits in with all of the, I don't know if it's imagery. It's more like these are concepts that you're sharing, and to put it in terms of reflected light. And I didn't read into it that vanity, but now that you say that, it's very obvious.
I think that a lot of the feelings have been kind of low pass filtered out from where it started. You know, as you write, it kind of filters, doesn't it? And the concept of the reflection and the mirror was what took over. You know, which kind of softened the rest of it. But the stubbornness born from vanity.
Yeah. And vanity really does, it kind of ruins relationships. It ruins other people's lives too, not only the person's who's experiencing it. I've been experiencing, not my own, but other people's, and trying to sort of accept them as they are, but saying, no, that's not right. How do I fix that? Or, how do I convince them to change? Or, that, like, you can't. It's unbending. The vanity is, you can't convince someone, oh, look here, you need to stop being so vain. That doesn't, it has nothing. It has no effect. It bounces right off like reflected light. That's great. That's a great.
Yeah, that was a gift. That was a gift. That was a lot of these. I don't know about you, but I feel a lot of these are just gifts that I just. There's the title. I kind of marinated it, and the words or the process or what needed to be done just came to me.
How maybe perhaps only how did that fit in with the theme of this poem? It didn't occur to me that it doesn't, but it makes sense.
I don't know. Maybe it didn't. Like I said, that one was very strong in terms of.
Oh, it just
that was
came through.
That was the poem that I had for the day. That I had this wrestling with other people's vanity, and that was just the title almost had nothing to do with it. I think that's probably what happened with that one.
Here's what I did with I did make a little note. Oh.
Yeah, again, Polish Up Your Metal was just a gift. It just came to me. This process has been a celebration of, inspiration, hasn't it? Certainly, just, it's like opening the door and kind of in it came.
Yeah. 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 It's worth the struggle.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for watching. There's a link, hopefully, below that you can actually get hold of the text of these poems. I hope you've enjoyed our little conversation. And Patrick and I look forward to seeing you next time. Do one as well, Patrick.
Thank you for watching this video and listening to the poems that we have written. And there's a link in the description to each of our respective YouTube channels.
Goodbye. Thank you for watching.